Hello, everybody. Dr. Rick Wallace here, dropping in on you. Hope everybody is having a great start to the week. Whether you celebrate the holidays or not, I hope that you are preparing to close out this year on a strong note, despite all that has transpired. This has, without question, been an immensely challenging year. And if you're not careful, you can find yourself easily being consumed by what you observe on the negative and lose sight of the positive. And there's always something to be thankful for. So I encourage you to look for the things that you can be grateful for, look for the things that you can be thankful for. Thankfulness and gratitude is the gateway to abundance. You cannot be a complainer. You cannot be a finger pointer, a blame aimer, someone who's always seeing the negative side and open the gateway to receiving and creating and manifesting more in your life. You're going to have to be able to create and generate gratitude on a regular basis. So I encourage you, look at the things that you have to be grateful for. For me, it's extremely easy at this point in my life because every day I wake up and I look to the left of me and there's this woman there. I wake up every day. I glance over to the left and I watch her take her breath. And when she takes that breath, I say, thank you. I'm grateful. Then I have 13 children who look to me for leadership and guidance, ranging from ages 35 down to 6. And they're going to at some point in time need me to do something or give them something, not necessarily material. There's so much more beyond the material in this world, and we lose sight of that a lot because we live in a materialistic, consumeristic, and self-consumed world, and we miss the opportunities to be blessings to others. And I just want to, first of all, before I get into this thing, encourage you to look and identify the things you have to be grateful for. Before I ever get to my office, number one is I don't turn my phone on for the first hour of the day. When you turn your phone on and the phone is the first thing you look at, you surrender your personal sovereignty, your ability to control your state of mind, your ability to control your mindset, focus, and how you're going to approach the day. It depends on what you find on that phone, what kind of state of mind you're going to be right out the gate. So I don't even look at it for the first hour. My hour is get up, establishing a heart of gratitude before I ever put my feet on the floor, coming down, doing my prayer meditation, preliminary exercises, just something to get the blood flowing. And then I establish what I'm going to do today, how I'm going to approach the day, because there are going to be challenges. There are going to be ins and outs. There's going to be ups and downs. There are going to be setbacks. There are going to be all these things. Life isn't about circumventing the vicissitudes of life. Life isn't about circumventing challenges, obstacles. That's not life. That is not winning. That's not success. Success and life is about taking on the challenges with a mindset that you're built for them, that you're built to take on challenges. You're built to win. And that is how I approach every day. That is the mindset that I work hard to instill in the minds of my clients. So I'm encouraging you once again to do that. I'm not going to be long. I just want to talk to you. A lot of people are asking me, what do I think about the new vaccine? You got to be kind of careful about what you say on other people's platforms. And what I mean by that, when someone else owns the platform on which you operate, uh, your your ability to go back. We've lost the channel by doing something that you would never think would cause you to lose a channel. 20,000 something subscribers, millions of views, just tanked. Um, and so that's another reason why we need to have our own platform. We own the servers, we own the platform itself. Then we come on and we can speak unapologetically and purely about the topics we want to speak. We don't have to be measured. I've watched so many people canceled on Twitter. I think, if I'm not mistaken, just last week, Professor Black Truth got his Twitter account suspended. Um, I've seen it with Jason Black. I've seen it with a bunch of people. But I'm going to be truthful. I'm not going to pitter pat around it, but I've got to be careful with my wording. Um, Here's the thing. First and foremost, I'm going to present to you a disclaimer. The disclaimer is that I am not a foremost expert in immunology, anything of that sort. Virology is not my strong suit. But what I can tell you is I've probably put more energy, effort, and research into understanding it than any average person out there that's not in the field. Because it's important, and this didn't start with this virus. This started with whether or not I was going to take the flu shot. Damn near 30 years ago. I've never taken the flu shot. I've only had the flu once at the age of 23. Never had it since. Want to know why? Because if you're healthy and you have a healthy immune system, your immune system is designed by the Most High to battle these things. We have destroyed our immune systems by our practices, our lifestyles, what we consume. More importantly, and hopefully I'll get a chance to address this today. If not, I'll come back and I'll talk about it at another time because it's that important. Our mentality. Do you realize that when I started studying epigenetics as a means of understanding multi-generational trauma and the transmission of multi-generational trauma, that I realized that much of our thinking, our mindsets, our experiences open up and activate, upregulate disease genes that have to be turned on, and expressing themselves in order to get sick. That we literally have the ability to self heal if we have the right environment. The right environment includes the air we breathe. The right environment includes whether we are around toxic people who create negative energy, negative ideas, negative thoughts, whether we are consuming the right food, and whether we have a clear and positive anticipation of being whole and healthy. What we believe about ourselves has a massive role in how well we're able to take care of ourselves. This has been scientifically documented. This isn't some mystic teaching. This is absolutely proven. That's how we know that adverse childhood experiences have a negative lifelong health outcome for children who have them. We know that when children go through negative experiences as children, what we call adverse childhood experiences, that it's going to have an impact on their physical health, not just immediately, but over the course of their lives. It has been proven, it has been studied now for years. So we understand that. So we also understand that these negative environments also upregulate disease genes, which uh, subsequently lead to these illnesses that we can chronicle and document and archive and study and all of these other things. There are some things that immediately pop up when people ask me, well, what do you think about the implications of virus? Well, first of all, if you are a person that's uh, made up your mind that you are going to take the immunization vaccination approach, my younger kids have not been vaccinated at all. I didn't have a choice in the matter, so obviously, as a child, I was. Uh, but as an adult, I have not taken anything. Definitely not a flu shot. Um, but our younger children have not, and they are, by measuring them against their older siblings, the most healthy of the bunch. No hospitalizations, no long term illnesses, actually more acute mentally and intellectually, and so much more. We did it the natural way. Everything they needed for their immunizations was done through nursing. Um, if they came down with a cold, the mother took whatever and ate whatever necessary to produce that enough level in the bloodstream so that when they nursed, they got it through natural means. And now their immune systems are off the chain. And I mean that in a positive way. But okay, so what am I getting at? Here's the first thing: when you study the development of vaccines, um, when you study the development of vaccines, the first thing you find out that it takes time to develop a vaccine. If you study the development of any medication, when you study the development of any process in which human consumption is an issue or human exposure is an issue, the studies have a tendency to go out over time. And what you're looking for is immediate side effects and long term implications. Well, see, one side of the study is what will happen immediately. And you do that. Normally, you start off with lab animals, predominantly rats, rabbits, and a bunch of other things. But you do that and you try to study the pathology of what you're developing and how over time it impacts the subject, the test subject, which let's say rats. The tests are lab rats are being tested. Okay, and this is what's happening. Okay, and so you get an idea of what happens over time. Well, what happens is when you develop a vaccine in under a year, you have no long term studies of what will transpire to give you any indication or understanding or any way to predict what will happen in the long term. So we have absolutely nothing to go on. This is scientific. This isn't conspiracy theory 101. This isn't anything. This is simply something that anybody that understands tests, studies, research on something that's being developed to be integrated into human environment, whether it's through consumption, whether it's through exposure, it doesn't matter. What you need to know is what are the immediate implications and what are the long-term implications. We have no idea what the long-term implications are. We don't even have a year-long study, much less a 2 or 3 year long study. Somewhere around 3 years is where most vaccines are developed and put up for approval. And that's still very short sighted. And so we still have things that are popping up, and we're realizing years down the line that it may not have been a good idea. Now, my thing is, what gets me is how, here's the problem. If you want to ensure that people are subjecting themselves to something that you want them to subject themselves to, you create fear. Fear is an unbelievably powerful motivator. It can get people to do things that they would not normally do. And so what you do is you scare people. You scare people into believing that if they don't do something, that their lives are going to be irrevocably changed by a particular outcome. So much so that the media, the media production and presentation and narrative doesn't have to be married to the facts. We know this for why? Because we use certain numbers, we use them out of context, and we create this idea that people are just dying at an unbelievable rate, and that this pandemic is out of control. And relatively speaking, this is what's happening, and so everybody's dying. The truth of the matter is, over half of the people who have died from COVID were over the age of 65, which we knew was going to be a problem. Why? Because normally their health is in decline. So they are at risk. Another large portion of that were people with pre existing conditions. So, in essence, even those who are actually in quote unquote healthy have a survival rate over 99% because the overall survival rate is around 99%. And that includes all the people who've died. So you take those people who are over 65, those people with pre-existing conditions, and this is a very timid by measurement, a 99% survival rate. And don't get me wrong, this is not me marginalizing anyone's death. This is me saying that I pay attention to all death so that I am not easily manipulated into isolating or giving one type of form of death a particular gravity over the rest. People die every day from car accidents, millions. People die. We're gonna lose more people from cancer. over the course of the next 12 months. 600,000 will die from the flu despite there being a vaccination. And you got to take that vaccination every year because the virus is evolving. Now, what's amazing is I never took a vaccination. I simply ate a certain way. And I grew up being reared by my great grandparents. So we grew almost everything that we ate in the yard. And so what happened is, and even when it came down to beef and chicken, we went down to the country every so often, where my grandfather was from. His cousin owned the farm. We took a cow and had it slaughtered, and we ate that meat straight from that. We knew where it grazed. We knew what it ate. And I'm not that big on beef anymore, hardly at all. Chicken, I've gotten almost completely away from, but during that time, that's still a difference in doing it that way and getting it through the commercial means. So, especially at the age of 23, when I probably encountered that first time encountering and actually contracting the flu, my body started to build antibodies toward it to fight it off. But what happens is when you have an immune system that's healthy, it's keeping up with the evolution of the virus. See, the problem is with the flu shot, it can't keep up with the evolution of the virus. It's only developed for the current strain. And the flu is like any other living organism. It has a will to live. So it evolves so that it can survive. And so you're constantly dealing with it. Now let's go back to the Spanish flu. The Spanish flu, back at the turn of the 20th century, killed what 65 billion people over the course of 2 years. And there was never a vaccine developed. But what happened is over time, herd immunity took effect. As more and more people were exposed to it and built up an immunity to it, it reached what's called the threshold, the immunity threshold, where a certain percentage of people, I think it's like 70% of people, had naturally inoculated themselves against it. And it could no longer spread effectively. And so the virus pretty much died off. So now I'm not suggesting that we try to do any particular thing. That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm giving you some historical facts. I'm not telling you whether you should take the vaccine or not. I'm telling you what some of the implications may be. I'm not going to give expert advice, not being an expert. That's not my lane. What I can tell you is from my observations I've made. What happened is almost what started me with in the way of not vaccinating my younger children was I saw an interview with what's her name, Malik Balam, an actress from way back in the 80s that I think played Blossom, and then I think is in some new series that's been on forever, something, whatever it is. Don't watch TV shows, so I can't tell you, but it's been on forever, and she plays a role in that. But she is uh, academically and professionally, she is also a neuroscientist, and she said that she would never vaccinate her children. So, a neuroscientist that will not vaccinate the kids. So I started doing research, and a large number of neuroscientists will not vaccinate their children. So, okay, that's pretty significant. Let me start researching why. And there are all these implications. You got to understand that the body is a natural organism. Anytime you introduce something into the body that is not a natural organism, it is considered an alien organism, and the body has to find a way to either process it or reject it or push it out. And so you put these things in. Now, here's the problem that, for instance, some of the things that are popping up about this new COVID virus is that there are a lot of false uh, positives as far as HIV, and there is a point of a molecule from the HIV virus that was used for a certain process within the development of the vaccination to ensure that it integrates and that it sticks. You got to understand that viruses have a tendency to stick around. So when you do a vaccination, imagine for these vaccinations you take once and you never have to take it again. Why do you think that is? Because the vaccination, even as a dormant virus, is not in the body and it's there. You get herpes, you've got it. You get HIV, you got it. You can get the viral load down so much that it doesn't have an impact on the immune system, but it's there. That's what happens with viruses. They come there. You know, my first contact with the flu gave me that virus, and that virus is still there, but it's in the natural form because I encountered it in the natural form. And it allows me every time another form comes up to dictate it, and my body immediately starts developing a resistance to it so that I don't even get it. And if I were to get it, it will probably be in a mild sense because the body will automatically start adjusting to it and doing what it does, all that stuff. Um, but in essence, what we're talking about is every time you take a flu shot, guess what you're doing? You're putting a version of that virus in your body, dormant or not dormant, it doesn't matter. You're putting a version of that in your body. And what happens? You get to a point where you're stacking something that has been artificially introduced into your biochemistry, and you're stacking it every year, stacking it. Well, in a sense like this here, well, I know in Australia they had to stop their project. They're going another direction with some other options, but they were getting false HIV positives, false positives on HIV. Now there's a new study that came out that I read in a medical journal was saying that it may increase the risk of contracting HIV. I haven't gotten a whole lot of information on that. I can't tell you to the brevity, but it was a reputable source. So it wasn't something just thrown out. There's a science behind it. There's a reason to be there's a reason to be concerned. So again, there's that. My thing is, how well are we outside of what the media is presenting to us, that the media is presenting to us, that we go inside and look and understand and research and read and gain at least some level of perspicacity as it pertains to what's going on with this virus, how it's impacting us truthfully, how they are actually diagnosing. What I find immensely interesting is we're in the midst of cold and flu season, and cold and flu diagnosis and cases are pretty much non-existent. You want to guess where those cases went? You want to guess what's actually getting the credit for the common cold and the flu? Do you think the flu has never gone in? We get the same amount of cases pretty much every year. That's how we have roughly around the same amount of deaths every year. 600,000 deaths globally around the world every year from the flu, because no matter how many take the flu, we still have this issue. And so all of a sudden, record breaking lows in cold and flu. Do you actually think the cold and flu disappeared? No. Just blame it on COVID. We need the numbers up. And that drives fear. Again, this is not me telling you not to get vaccinated. But here's the other thing that I looked at. I am a historian. I am an expert in human behavior. And I have studied immensely the history of this country and its impact on us and how it has impacted our survival, our behavior, our current state. And what I can tell you is never in the history of this nation, even before it became a nation, has something been absolutely and clearly defined as being beneficial to the whole, and blacks were being pushed to get it first. Never has that ever happened. So when I constantly see the narrative of justification, the first person who gets it is a healthcare professional who happens to be a black female. The person giving the shot happens to be a black female. We get articles about families of the men who suffered through the Tuskegee experiment, saying that they will definitely take the vaccination. First question comes to mind: how much were they paid? I mean, it's so many different ways that this stuff is being pushed and narrated, and it's, to me, so obvious and blaring that it automatically creates concern and cause for pause. Here's what I'm saying. You can't tell me a time. I mean, first of all, I tell everybody, don't listen to me. Read the book, Medical Apartheid. Um, Read that book, Medical Apartheid. Make your own conclusions. Be aware. Look at both sides. Research is about balanced discovery. It's about not just trying to prove yourself right, not just trying to support existing beliefs, hypotheses, concepts, hypotheses, and theories. It's about looking at all of the information and putting both sides in juxtaposition to one another to determine where the medium is, what is most likely to be true. And from that particular perspective, then you sit up and you make a choice and you make a decision. That's what's called an educated decision. You can't trust a media induced hysteria to guide you, because the media is not serving the same interests as you. That's something that you have to be keenly cognizant of. You have to say, okay, whose interests are being served? My thing is, I truly believe that COVID is an issue. I don't believe that it's this made up thing. I think that it exists. Um, I also am aware of how different organizations have dictated how it's diagnosed. I know that there are a bunch of false positives nobody wants to talk about. I also know that it has an immensely high survival rate to be considered so deadly. And yes, my heart goes out to every family that has been affected. My family is not unaffected. My kid that had it, he bounced right back. It wasn't a kid anyway, grown person, but my kid bounced right back from it. I mean, no major symptoms, never even stopped him from doing anything normal outside of having to kind of keep to himself for however many days he had to. But recovery, and that's what's going to happen with most people who are healthy. The thing is, we need to protect those who aren't healthy. So we do need to find a way to do that. We need to find a way to protect the unhealthy population. But exposing ourselves to something that has not had any long term observation on its impact. And we still are not clear as to the short term implications. And more importantly, the fact that it's being pushed. I know that there has been an ongoing, since the first mention of a vaccination, there's been an ongoing campaign to make the continent of Africa the study grounds, when the continent of Africa has been the least impacted by the pandemic. And again, here in the United States, African Americans have been lauded as the most negatively impacted by it, when the truth of the matter is the most negatively impacted population have been people over 65. But the way the media presents the narrative, it'll have everybody thinking, boy, this stuff is really killing Black people. Well, no, it's killing people who aren't healthy. So in that instance, that can be a significant part of us because we haven't taken care of ourselves. But it's not because we're Black. It's because of an impact of poverty, which means poor nutrition, poor health. It's a part of poverty. If you study uh, social influences, um, that's that's just a part of what the reality is, and we need to understand that that's something that we should be working on within the community. There are so many different areas that we can you know, inoculate ourselves from the influences of negative um, intent and nefarious and harmful intent towards us, by being better prepared, by being healthier, by being more aware, by being more self-sufficient. And in so many different ways, we depend too heavily on a system that looks to manipulate, oppress, control, and in some ways destroy us. It's no way that we're ever going to truly experience power when we are in a situation where we're dependent on the people who want to ensure that we remain um, impotent, powerless, without force. If we ever intend to make our presence felt, then we are going to have to become self sustaining. And that's not going to happen overnight because our thinking doesn't support it. And so we've got to be aware of that in every possible way. And so my thing is in this, that we have to get to a point where we're not being emotionally manipulated. And a great deal of what I see when I see people's responses to this pandemic, it's emotional. Oh my God, this is happening. Oh my God, that's happening. Look, this person says it. I got a cousin who had it. And and all these things. And again, I'm not marginalizing those who have been become very sick from it, those who have passed away from it. No, what I'm sitting up and saying is what should have been done is immediately that should have been campaigns on proper nutrition, the development of the autoimmune system, the enhancement of the autoimmune system. That should have been all kind of things about what to eat, how to eat, exercise. The healthier you are, the less impact this has on you. That is scientifically proven true. So instead of everybody sitting up saying, "Oh, we need a vaccine," we've become functionally lazy, not just as a race, but as a complete society. Instead of sitting up and saying, I'm going to be healthy, give me a shot for it, give me a pill for it, give me a panacea that everybody says will work. And that's what I'm going to take. We want to take pills for everything. We don't want to put in the work. We don't want to get healthy. We don't want to get in the gym. We don't want to eat right. We don't want to do all of the things that are necessary to ensure a long, healthy life. And so we deal with things like dementia, Alzheimer's. We deal with coronary heart disease, the number one killer in the world. We deal with um, diabetes. We're so stressed out that we're upregulating cancer genes at an alarming rate and not even realizing that we have to have so many different cancer genes currently turned on and expressing themselves to actually develop cancer. And yet we're doing it to ourselves. And that's where we should have focused, is on how can we naturally improve our immune systems so that when we encounter this thing, we deal with it. I mean, the same thing. They've always said there's no cure for the common cold. You get the cold and it doesn't kill you. At some point in times, way back in the day, it was probably not that way. But when when you deal with the cold, you're dealing with a virus, and you do what your body does what it does and gets rid of it, and so many other things that the body does. But the problem is when you don't take care of yourself, you put yourself at risk for something that would not normally harm you to kill you. And the simple answer is to get a shot, but the truthful answer is we need to live better. We need to be stronger. We need to prepare ourselves to live long, healthy, productive lives. We've got a mindset of a somewhat new age culture of retiring at 65. It's a westernized idea. The truth of the matter is, you're supposed to be actively moving and doing until you leave this place. You don't retire from your purpose. You don't retire from your destiny. You don't get to 65 and say, I'm done. That's why you see people over 65 suffering from this. Why? Not because you automatically decline, but when you stop using your brain, when you stop having a specific purpose in this world, whether it's to feed your family, whether it's to feed yourself, whether it's to touch lives, whatever you're driven by, whatever you're motivated by, when you lose that, you start a mental decline. The mental decline will automatically have a direct impact, a psychosomatic impact on your physical health. You cannot get away from it. It simply is. And so, my thing is, I want to Encourage people to do their own homework. Look into it, research it, read more than one article, read more than one perspective. Be as educated on both sides of the argument as you possibly can and make a decision. But like I said, my two things that immediately pops up is, when have we ever been first to get anything that truly has benefited us? Number two, who can predict and tell you what the long-term implications are when there haven't been any long-term studies? That's the science of it. That's the question that can't be answered. And anybody who pretends to tell you they know the answer to it, definitely don't trust them, because there's nothing to validate that assessment or that prediction. It's a guess, and a horrible guess at that, because there's no long term. We sitting up and we're on we're in a new frontier, and so to pretend that we know, it's not honest, it's deceptive, it's unfair, and we need to do better. B Blaze, you're making a very valid point there. There's so many studies that haven't been done in a long way, but you got to understand something, and I'll leave it with this: the vaccination is approved by the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, right? Well, the thing is, the Food and Drug Administration is the same one that has stamped and approved all the crap you can go into the store and buy and put into your system that will kill you. The Food and Drug Administration has stamped and approved so many darn foods with things in it that you know are not good for you. Um, so many, I mean, I can't even, it's just flowing in my head right now. I can't pull one out, but just stuff that we know isn't good for us. Processed food, period, is not good for you. Uh, and wow, man, somebody help me out. The high fructose corn syrup. I don't know why that would not come in my head. It was blocking everything else. The one high fructose corn syrup, processed foods. I mean, read the ingredients on this food and do the research on the ingredients, and then realize that the FDA had to approve all of this for it to be on your grocery store shelf. And understand what it does to you. High fructose corn syrup contributes to coronary heart disease at an alarming rate. Um, and it's in almost all your soft drinks. It's in food that you would never even imagine. I started reading stuff, I'm like, man, it's in here. You know, sugary drinks, you expect it to be in there because it's a cheap way of sweetening things. And you got to also understand that the body becomes addicted to it, just like regular sugar, processed sugar. It becomes, your body becomes addicted to it. You crave it, you want it, and it's consistently and progressively destroying you. Those are the things that you have to be aware of. Those are the things that we need to be more concerned about, because in the long term, we can create an immunity to any particular thing if we are healthy. And you understand that. Here's another thing that I want to leave you with. I know I said I was done, but did you realize that fear and anxiety negatively impact your immune system? Did you realize that being isolated from normal social situations and pathogens, by isolating yourself at home and or wearing masks, also reduces the effectiveness of your immune system? Do you realize that the longer you stay isolated socially, the more susceptible you are going to be to getting sick from things that haven't made you sick in the past? You're going to see a lot more people with allergies. You're going to see a lot more people becoming significantly ill from things that they wouldn't have even thought about or paid attention to in the past, because you're isolating yourself. You're keeping yourself in a sterile environment, and the world isn't sterile. The body's immune system can't build up um, a resistance to things it has not been exposed to. And here's the thing. So, all of these things are things that you have to be aware of. All of these things are things you have to be aware of. And it just comes to a point that we cannot trust what's being presented to us because you have to understand that this is about serving interest. Everything is about the interest of something or someone. And if your interests have never been served, you got to ask, okay, well, why am I at the point of this? When you haven't done the studies you need to do, hey, who else are they going to try it on? You got to remember the pathology of syphilis was studied in black men for 40 years. Over 20 of those years, they had the cure and didn't give it to them. Just something to think about. On that note, I'm going to get out of here. You guys have an unbelievable day. Um, I'm out. I got a lot to do, but I just had to drop in and kind of give my 2 cents. And that's what it is. It's just my 2 cents. Take it at face value and do however you want it. On that note, I'm out. You guys have a great day. We will talk soon.